Hello, and welcome to Subfloor Stories, where we have conversations around faith and culture. I'm your host, Angie Ring. If you're enjoying this podcast and like to listen to it on Spotify, subscribe to my channel under Subfloor Stories. You can also watch it under my YouTube channel, Angie Ring 1. For today's podcast, you can file it under Cool People Doing Cool Things. We have Rachel Joy Barehl, who's a professional matchmaker. Rachel will share about why she felt she was suited to matchmaking, how she does it, what being a connectrovert means, and she'll also share the sweet, sweet story about how she and her husband first started dating. I'm so glad you're here. Here we go. Hello, Rachel.
Hi, friend. It's good to see you.
It's so good to see your face. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like with the holidays we haven't got to see each other as much as maybe we normally would, so it's actually nice to see you face to face.
Yeah, we're just a couple blocks away from each other, surrounded by some snow today. So it's good
Yeah,
to have
yeah. It is crazy
technology.
that we live so close, but yeah, we're still using technology to do this call, but that's okay.
So we wouldn't be
So
able to have our beautiful faces on it if we were sitting next to each other. So it
that
makes it
is true. Or it'd be a lot harder. We'd have to like
cuddle.
try to, yeah, we could record like this. We would be okay with that. All right, well, let's just jump right in. Why don't you tell me and the listeners a little bit about your current career path?
Okay. Let's start with who I was when I was a kid. I was always like making fruit trays and trying to get my mom to invite her friends over and just had this like hospitality ingrained in me, not from her. My dad probably had more of that he kind of passed down. But yeah, I was like just not a normal child. I also didn't have any siblings or a lot of peers around me other than at school. I was like I didn't have any cousins that lived in the state. I was surrounded by a lot of adults. So I was a little bit of an old soul, but also tried to make things fun and beautiful. When I was 11 years old, I hosted a summer camp for 5-year-olds for like 2 or 3 days.
My gosh.
Um, my mom had to take days off of work. She raised me in like a Christian home, and her words from God were, make room for her gifts. So that was sort of like what she felt called to cultivate in me and allow me to do things that were way outside of her comfort zone. As I grew up, I just I loved people. I enjoyed getting to know a lot of people's names, care about them. I was given awards in creativity as a child, and it didn't mean a lot to me. I was kind of like angry about that. I was like, I want to be something cool and strong, and creativity didn't really I didn't understand what it meant. I just thought it was like, oh, everybody's creative.
Yeah.
So as I've grown, I've gotten honestly like in my 30s having friendships that kind of like pointed out that the way my brain works is a little bit different than how theirs works is the
Mm.
first time I really noticed and appreciated, okay, like the way I like to solve a problem or create something that has these extra hidden benefits is like not necessarily the norm. So I was a photographer throughout my 20s. Not something I set out to do, but it kind of just unfolded for me and was a path that was a really fun adventure. I did that for many years at weddings, probably sometimes 2 or 3 weddings in a weekend,
Wow.
pre-pandemic. And then the pandemic slowed everything down and it became more backyard, intimate weddings. Always really great intentional people that came my way and worked with me. So I would say like 8 or 9 out of 10 couples did something really unique and out of the ordinary and a little bit more DIY, or like if they loved board games, there was probably board games at their reception. If they were musicians, they probably wrote a song and sang to each other. If their family enjoyed brewing beer, they would have their home brew. So just spending time with like in large groups of wonderful people, surrounded in community and love. And I think I was a little bit disenchanted with weddings, and thought I never want to get married. And then I went to one that was just so community focused. I remember they had everyone got a quilt square in the invitation, and they were supposed to like embroider something or draw something and bring it back on the wedding day. And they made this like giant quilt out of these
Oh,
pieces
what a
of
cool
art from
idea.
people. And it was between that wedding on a Friday in northeastern Ohio and on Sunday, I had a wedding in Hawaii from one of my friends from that I met when I was living in the Netherlands. And on that plane ride from the Ohio wedding to the Hawaii wedding, I remember like I just like planned out my wedding in my brain. I was very early into a relationship with Adam, you know. And I hadn't even said I love you yet. Like I was still trying to define what that word meant to me. So I remember on that trip planning our wedding and writing out this list of details. Let me think of something. Like I wrote, I like he was working, he did an AmeriCorps position the year that we dated, so he was making like $2 an hour. And I remember one of the lines and like the reasons that I think I'm like falling in love with you is I like being creative and like being poor with you. I like
Oh,
telling stories with you. I like this. I should find it. I do. Okay. So fast forward and rewind at the same time. I met Adam at a game party on Valentine's Day in 2013. And I'm just really taking you on a journey to answer a very
I'm
simple question.
loving
I hope
it.
it's okay.
If you would rather me guide you more, I will, but I just don't feel like you need it. So I'm along for the ride.
Okay. So we met at a game party on Valentine's Day. I was wearing these heart-shaped glasses made out of pipe cleaners that I was at the time I was at Ohio State studying, and I had this class where we were co-creating furniture with middle school kids, high school kids for their community center. And that evening, we were like getting to know each other. We were making little avatars of ourselves out of art supplies. And so someone made me these heart-shaped glasses. I will
Aw,
send you a picture so you can put it in the show notes.
I would love that.
Yeah, so our friend Renee lives in the house now, but back then, our friend Tilly lived there, and I walked into the room with these heart-shaped glasses, and I met a room full of people that were just new humans that were great. And many of them were men, and that was a nice surprise because I had so many friends that were surrounded by women, women and women and women, but there weren't a lot of men around. So it was like, ooh, that was so refreshing to meet some new guys. And fast forward a week, I was giving a talk at a public event randomly about matchmaking, which was not a big part of my life at that time. It was I had made one match, and I was like, yeah, I'll talk about connecting. So I said that there's introverts, there's extroverts, and there's connectroverts. And, those of us that are connectroverts get our energy from bringing people together. So that was sort of like planted in me. I'm now on a journey of helping others find love, partially inspired by that original game party where I met this group of people. I knew they were attending that talk the following week, so I wanted to be prepared and have something to invite them to, just as a whole group. I liked them all. And so at the time, I had a lot of roommates. I lived in a house near the Ohio State campus. We called it the Ayuka House. And we used to host like house concerts and poetry readings and just fun
Oh,
stuff
that
that
is
we
so
wanted to
cool.
exist. Yeah. There's some people that have now like gotten quite famous, and I'm like, they used to read in my living room. So I'm so proud of them
Oh,
and
that's amazing.
honored that, yeah, there's just so many connections and people that I still get to see that are made friends and met boyfriends in my house at that time. So, um, Yeah, so when I was at the event the following week talking about being a matchmaker after making one match, I had planned this brunch at my house 2 days later, and I invited everyone that was at that game party. I was like, hey, what are you doing on Saturday? Come to my house for brunch. So that is sort of informing my work now, where it's a mixture of discovering lovely humans, creating spaces where people can come together in a mindful and a playful way. So like let's laugh together, let's play games. You've played games with me and my one of my clients before. We had a great time. It like breaks the ice and just helps you get to see a side of someone that doesn't so often come out on a first date.
Sure.
And then also supporting daters by not only having it be that one event, but like, hey, let's commit. Let's do a couple of things as a group so you can get to know each other in good company, in a good space that no matter if your person is in the room or not, my hope is that every person will feel seen and respected and able to just practice showing up as their full self and even get more in touch with who they are through the process of being around others that are sort of leading with vulnerability and creating a space where, hey, like all of you is welcome here. And like we want to learn about the things in your life that were hard. We want to know like, what have you had to overcome in your life? In what ways, have you learned to do better than what was given to you, passed on by your
Yeah.
parents? How are you being a good human to others? In what ways have you expanded in your outlook of the world? So just creating warm environments for warm introductions and usually, fingers crossed, like lots of laughter. I know sometimes I have I have a friend or two who do not enjoy all of the icebreakers and activities, but I do think that for the majority of people, getting on the same level of all being bad at something together. So, for
Yeah.
instance, lately I've been doing the one-line drawings where you can't look down at your paper. We're just staring at each other, and I've got like 20 seconds to draw a portrait of you not looking down, and then we show it and then we're just like,
Yes.
this is my kindergarten artwork, is it? It's so fun. It works for all ages. Yeah, so I build a lot of relationships with artists and creative people, and my dream is really coming into fruition now of having experience and trusting these other guides for my people so that we can go and take a workshop that's more on the contemplative side and make something out of nature and share how we feel about the shorter days of winter. And just it's so cool. There's a dance instructor who I've recently connected with, and she said give her 2 or 3 minutes and she can teach anyone of any age something that can be shared and done together. So it's just kind of like a
How
speedy
cool.
route to depth and connection. So
That's
that's,
great. I'm going to jump in here. A
yeah.
couple things I want to comment on. First of all, I can confirm that you are a connectivert. Is that the term?
Hmm.
I I love being friends with you, and I don't think I have ever had a friend that I have been connected to more people through. You are a magnet. I mean, you're a magnet. There are so many people in my life now who someone will say, "Oh, how did you meet them?" And I'm like, "Oh, Rachel Barehl." That's how I met them. And you're just a very natural connector of people. And I love even watching you make those connections. Like if I'm with you and you're talking to someone and someone will say, oh yeah, I just got into pottery. You automatically are like, oh, really? I have a friend who does pottery and she loves
Hmm.
meeting people and you'll connect them like on the spot. And I love that about you. But I also want to remark on your creativity. I could understand, like, as a child, you hearing that spoken over you and not being super excited over it because we do know from like creative mornings that everyone is creative, right?
Hmm.
But you are creative in ways that I could like only dream about in my wildest dreams. Like your creativity to me is off the charts. Just being around you, I feel like elevates my creativity. And so I just wanted to like put that out to our listeners that like you are one of the most creative people that I've ever met. And so speaking about the profession of matchmaking, to be creative, I feel like in that profession is just something that will serve you and your clients so well because you're not thinking just in a black and white style, right? In like, or in a linear fashion. You think in all of these different ways as far as making connections and even the parties that you're talking about, like playing games and things like that. And I love that. So let me, if you don't mind, ask you a few questions just to kind of pull out exactly what matchmaking looks like. You've shared a little bit about how you bring people together and
Mhm.
how you encourage and foster connections. Say that I'm someone who hears this podcast, or like I see one of your posts, which by the way, your social media presence is phenomenal. Listeners, if you don't follow Rachel Barehl on socials, you need to follow her because your social media presence is just wonderful. But
Every now and then you'll get blown up with a lot of posts when I have a lot to say, but then I'll go silent for some time too.
yeah,
So
and then you can just kind of like look through at your leisure. But yeah, so say I'm like, all right, I'm interested in this. What are like first steps? Like say someone reaches out to you and wants to start kind of the process. What would that look like?
great question. Well, you know, what I say today might change if you're listening to this podcast in 2 or 3 months because I am really still in an experimental phase. So, and my website is still being built. So I don't even have like my home presence yet out there on the internet.
Sure.
It's coming, and I decided not to wait until everything was perfect and all lined up to start doing this and being brave and putting myself out there because just like in dating, I feel like we learn so much by experiences.
Hmm.
I learn what I do like, I learn what doesn't feel comfortable. I bump up against the edges and I realize like I could do this, but only at this capacity. And so I'm still really learning my limits. What I'm doing right now and what I imagine will exist is hopping on a call with me where we can kind of go through your dating history, your kind of just childhood, talk about inspirational relationships. So, people in your life who you see as a couple that loves each other well. And we'll talk about like, what is it about their relationship that makes you attracted and feel comfortable and safe and at home? And is it their banter? Is it how they do conflict? Is it the way they make each other coffee in the morning? Like, let's talk in detail about what being loved looks like for you. Um, yeah, we kind of do a little bit of a brain dump. We talk about things that are attractive to you and things that you feel are not something you're open to being flexible or compromising on. Yeah, we kind of go deep. I ask a lot of questions. And then I try to end that with a little bit of a dating pep talk. So we talk a little bit about pacing intimacy, what kinds of conversations you probably want to have before being physical, when oxytocin takes over your brain and makes it hard to see the red flags that you kind of want to see at 3 weeks and not 3 months or 3 years in. We talk about if you are a person who's dating on the apps, some takeaways of how might you get in person quicker with lower stakes, less attachment to the outcome,
The
and
apps are
just
rough.
yeah.
I have friends that have been single for a while who have been, yeah, and from women, I hear only seriously horror stories. I mean,
Mhm.
they're not pleasant, but
Yeah.
sorry to
I feel
interrupt
like
you
I feel
again.
like a big part of my work is also just to like support men, help men learn, help help just kind of bridge the gap. Like, let's talk about
Sure.
what are your expectations? What is really happening on dates? How can we listen to each other and like do better? So
Yeah.
creating spaces for harder conversations,
So needed.
right now I'm doing some group experiences, so it's a trust fall. So this is kind of what I've been dreaming of for a long time, which is to take a group of singles on a series of events with different activities, a little bit of a trust fall. So my hope is that each person will leave the experience, which is going to take place over several weeks, with more confidence and more knowledge about themselves and awareness, and friends. Because there's a lot of people who are dating and they're the fifth wheel or the seventh wheel and they don't have a single friend. And I think changing that changes a lot of things.
Oh, wow. Yeah, it would.
Especially, I think, like finding someone who's similar to you. So, this first group that I'm doing in January is for people in their 30s and 40s who want children. I've had a lot of conversations with people around 40 who are just like, I really want kids. And I'm like, well, if anyone needs this help, like, I want to help you fast. There's some time sensitivity and
Sure.
you're motivated, I'm motivated, let's do this. So, I have that. Next month, I'm doing a special group for people who are 50 plus. And then I'm also doing
Love
people that
that.
don't want children, who are in their 30s
Yeah.
and 40s. And
Which is a growing population, by the way.
totally, yeah. And it's hard because when you like label it at all, I'm like, that makes the likelihood of you meeting your person higher. But at the same time, there's a bunch of nuance. There's the people that already
Yeah.
have kids. Are they welcome? There's the people that are like, I probably don't want kids, but if I meet the right person, I would be open to it. So like those people are welcome
Yeah.
too, but it's more of the I'm okay not having a child. I
Yes.
can be
It's not the
happy.
aching desire of my heart.
Yeah. So that's where
Yes.
I'm kind of separating it. And then I also feel like as a plus size person, I want to create a space for like plus size daters where they are prioritized too, because I think, yeah. So there's just all of these ideas, and it feels hard as someone that wants to be a lover and includer of all people. Like, is this fair for me to kind of like focus on specific groups? But at the same time, I'm like, okay, I'm inspired by the conversations, by the people that are coming to things, the people that are having the 1 hour sessions with me. And so that's where I have to begin. And maybe it will
Yeah.
grow. I have ideas and we're getting closer, but there's still probably like a ton of adventure ahead that I don't even know about.
Oh, I don't doubt that at all. For an Enneagram 7, there will be lots of adventure ahead.
Actually, as we were talking, I'm like, okay, we have to do an Enneagram workshop for daters ASAP. We did one at my house
Oh,
recently for like
yeah.
creative entrepreneurs, but let's get that on the calendar today.
Yeah, we need to. It really is so helpful. I've told you before, the Enneagram has been completely life-changing in my marriage. Like Heath and I just learning what our numbers were, and like for me, the way that I see him, I get so less frustrated about the things that used to frustrate me about him because I'm like, oh, this is wiring. So
Hmm.
yeah, it would be really helpful for daters.
Yeah.
Let me ask a couple things.
Hmm.
So as you're talking, I love you've shared a lot about kind of what it would look like if someone kind of became in your sphere of influence
In
as
my
far as
orbit.
perspective. Yeah, in your orbit, that's better. Yeah. As far as prospective daters,
Hmm.
who is welcome? So you had mentioned a little bit about a faith background as a child. Is this for only for people with faith, only not? And what about people who are like LGBTQ plus? Is this only for heterosexual folks? Tell me a little bit about what that looks like.
Yeah. So in my last year of experimentation, I've hosted for a variety of different people. So I had a book swap last summer, and there was one heteronormative night, and then there was a queer night. And the queer night was more magical in all the ways. It was nice. The heteronormative night, there it was hard to get an equal number of men to come out, so that was sort of the
Yeah.
feedback that I got. Um, I do prefer, like, my vision is that there will be a little bit more of specifics for who's invited into the room. So, an event for people that are liberal leaning and this, like, I think that helps. I did not an open mic. I did a comedy, coffee, and game morning for queer people this past October, and it was so fun. So it was like a Saturday morning at a vegan coffee shop in Columbus. They opened early for us. Everyone got a hug when they walked in. They made a name tag that shared if they were monogamous, non-monogamous, or just looking for friendship, if they, could be in different if they had multiple identities, they got to wear multiple name tags and then choose which circle they wanted to go in after meeting people. Um,
Okay, yeah.
I find comedy can be a really good place to lead with vulnerability. So that was part of the joy and just sitting at shows and hearing people share, like, I'm a late bloomer. I came out when I was in my mid 20s, like dating is hard. I'm like, I want to help them. So, I get a picture of a certain person in my mind, and sometimes that is a person that invests in me and becomes a VIP client, and then I kind of create for them because they've commissioned me. Other times it's like I have space in my calendar. Like, let's just make this one time thing happen. Um,
Sure.
I would say that I really don't know how these little cohorts will end up being, if I will keep them like-minded folks, or if it will be this is sort of welcome to the club, everyone is welcome, and then from there they have voting power of what do we want to see happen? Do we want to have, you know,
Oh,
a
yeah, that's
queer
it.
dance
Yeah.
party? Do we want to do speed dating for Christian singles? Yesterday I had a call with um, a teen librarian in Dayton, and he is a liberal Christian and looking for a partner. And I'm just like, I'm not super connected in Dayton. You're not paying me money. Like, I'm not, it would take a lot of effort to find that person a
Yeah.
match. But I do think that sticking with Columbus as far as people that I'm bringing together feels more aligned. I'm happy to have a call with people that live in other places and kind of give them that pep talk. Maybe connect them with another matchmaker. Yeah, there's a lot of loneliness. There's a lot of people that need this,
Yeah.
and I'm going to have to be decisive at times and leave people out based on my capacity. So
Sure.
the
But
group,
people,
the people that are like open-minded, kind, like when I ask people what are the top 5 qualities you're looking for in a partner, and they say like kindness, that's like, okay, you're probably my type of person, and I like when people are wanting to be open and like be more able to talk about the deep stuff.
sure.
Sometimes in that hour-long call, it's very like non-emotional. And I do think like those people are still invited to come and, try to fit in and be a little bit more open and talk about stuff. But I would say that the community stuff is centered around people that have a compassion for themselves and for others, want the best for others and themselves. Yeah, just a collaborative, platonic love wins too sort of vibes.
Absolutely. So you see folks obviously from all sorts of backgrounds, whether they're looking for a same-sex partner, for heterosexual relationships, and faith background.
Mhm.
Or you're open to folks who are atheists, who are Christians, who are
Yeah.
Hindu. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, I always have a conversation like, how do you identify spiritually, religiously? What are you open to in a partner? What does it look like to you to think about like raising kids? So like a lot of people have never thought about that. They're like, I have a personal relationship with God, but I don't attend Big C church. This is someone yesterday that I spoke with. And then I'm like, cool, like you know, people like that often feel most comfortable with someone else that is like agnostic or believes in God. And yeah, there's times when they think that they don't care, and then they go out with someone and they realize, oh, actually, this is an important part of me. So let's update the profile. Let's be aware. I like to have people share like in what faith tradition were you raised and where are you at now? Like in what ways has it changed? What is
Yeah.
your family like? What is familial expectations? How comfortable are you, letting them down in certain ways if you don't want a church wedding or something. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah,
S-
but I think the biggest thing that is important for couples is if they want children to talk very early on about what is your vision for how you want to raise your kids. Do you want to raise them in church? Do you want to raise them out of church? Like that's a question I ask everybody.
Yeah, I love that you really dig into some of these questions that, quite frankly, are relationship breakers down the line. And you dig into these things before people are even dating. Like you're asking these questions, like you said, sometimes before they even are thinking about them, to just kind of have that on the radar. I know couples who they've broken up after being together for a year or two because one wanted children and one didn't, and
Yeah.
because they didn't do the hard work ahead of time.
Baby, in my intentional dating circle, we are talking about all the important stuff very early on. Not on the first date. We don't need a trauma dump. We just need to
Yeah.
explore like, first date is to be like, what are some of the most, brightest parts of your life? What are you passionate about? Are we comfortable together? Cool. Short and sweet. Let's go for a walk, grab a drink, one of those short and sweet dates. Plan the second date, do an activity together. Go, um,
Something
kayak if
else.
it's in the summer, or go bowling or putt-putting, or my my client Dan, who he actually offered to do chores. So they rolled up a fence and like, they made their own escape room
I
vibes
love it.
and checked off something off of her because people are if you are I do not envy being single. There is so much to do to take care of a life and a house, and like
Yeah, it's,
you
yeah,
can build dating into what's already existing. You can do a grocery shopping date. You can do a meal prepping date.
yeah.
You can take your dog to the dog park together. Um, it doesn't have to be like in this little bubble of magic that's fancy food and drink and movies and stuff like
Yeah.
that. Like dating is, hey, how does our real life overlap? Are we good supportive partners on good days and bad days? And does your offering match what I need and vice versa? And yeah, so I highly recommend that people get in touch with their own wants and needs. I think a lot of people go into dating thinking too much about, oh, does this other person want me? And they don't think enough about, is this other
Yeah.
person showing up in a way that I could see myself compatible with? Do they bring,
Yeah.
and not that we write people off if we don't see those things instantly. I think that a slow burn is healthy, and a lot of people are not good at showing up and selling themselves in a conversation, and that's why I think they're like, I honestly believe in these group experiences more than setting some up on a date. It's funny, like in the matchmaking world, people are like, so do you go on the date with me? Because they're so confused. And matchmakers are like, no, no, we're not on the date. But I'm like, actually, we're gonna do something and I'm gonna be there and I'm gonna make it better and more fun and like help shine
Yeah.
light on your goodness and help hopefully have other people see what I see. And I kind of go on a pre-date with everyone where I spend that hour getting to know them and yeah, learning about what their relationship history was like and why they want a partner. And a lot of people, especially in their 30s and 40s and up, have spent a lot of time, they're set in their ways. They like their life and they're nervous to have someone come and disrupt that in a way. So
Yeah.
I validate that most people don't want to do everything together like you do when you're like 19-year-olds or 22-year-olds getting together.
Sure.
Like people want to maintain like I have this group of friends that I do this thing with. sometimes I want you to come, but I also want to just like do stuff with my friends, or I really like my alone time. I don't want to be social or talking 24/7 with a partner. So I help people kind of learn to gently, kindly communicate also what they need and ask each other questions that helps show that they've put in the work. So let's say there's a couple that has a date planned for Saturday. They both have the date saved, but they don't know what they're doing. So maybe they take turns and one person is like, okay, here are 3 or 4 ideas. Are you in the mood for like a hike and brunch at this place? Are you in the mood for resting and doing like face masks and reading? Like giving options and also leaving the option for something else. What sounds good to you? Like we can co-create our life together. Um, and yeah, so that's a little bit of my vision and
Rachel,
art.
you are just so suited to this work. You really, really are. Just listening to the ways, even just that last part that you just talked about. Like, I would never in a million years think through encouraging folks to come up with 3 or 4 options for a date. I would just say, well, what do you want to do? And what do you want to do? Okay, we'll figure it out,
Mhm.
which is
Yeah, I mean, it's like
probably
the
why I'm not a
what
matchmaker. But
what do you want for dinner? That sort of ongoing, like some
I don't
people
know.
hate
What do
that
you want?
question. So yeah,
But
doing
you've
some
kind
work.
of beat that conversation with
I
your
help
process.
Yeah, I help people that are single, like, dating on the apps, like have a little dating bucket list, have a few places that you are either your safe places that you know you like to go and you feel comfortable there, or places that are like you want to try them. You want to be a tourist in your own city. Like, just be prepared. Yeah, there's a lot
Yeah,
you can do so that, okay, I met a really cool person. We've got 2 minutes. We met at an event. If you have standing plans, which is something that I really love the idea of, you know, a weekly gathering at your house that you host, or you go to the same restaurant for chips and salsa and margaritas at the same time every week, and like, okay, that's my office hours. I can invite anyone. It's on the agenda. If I meet someone, they can join. And if not, then hopefully they can propose something else that works for them.
sure.
And, it doesn't just evaporate.
Something else I love that you do is you talk to your clients at a time about physical intimacy. Can you talk to me a little bit about what that looks like?
Yeah, I mean, I have learned so much of what I kind of share with people from other people in the industry. So, matchmaker Maria has something called the 12 date rule, which I love and I just share it so much. She has a book coming out in the spring, so I'm excited to have like, a written
Oh,
version.
sure.
Right now, she has an Instagram highlight, but a date is anything between 20 minutes and 2 hours. You count that as one date. Keep a little note on your phone or a post-it note in your house. Um, if you're together for 2.5 hours, you count it as 2 dates. You can never get more than 2 dates in one day. So even if you're
Okay.
together for 8 or 12 hours, still just 2 dates. That allows you, on your way up to 12, enough time to have conversations, to learn how to have, hard conversations, communicate with each other. It will translate to the bedroom also because you know how to talk to each other. You can be more open. And, some people want to go much slower than that too. They don't want to, be intimate on the 12th date. That's okay. I think that it gives a good timeline for getting to know someone, giving yourself space where you don't have to be deciding after the first date or that pressure
Yeah,
after the second date. Is this my person? I don't know. It's like, okay, are you comfortable? Are you curious? You keep going. That's what dating is for. It's to see, and to not give someone a chance to show who they are in a couple of different days means you might miss out on a really great person who is nervous to start or needs a little bit of safety before being vulnerable. So
sure.
that is part of it. And then, yeah, it's something to talk about before like being intimate, like have a conversation that is something like, I'm really enjoying getting to know you. I would like for this to be exclusive. How do you feel about that? Have that defining moment in your relationship. I'm going to share 2 things about my own life with Adam. One of them was I met him at a time that I was still pretty immersed in like the church and Christianity. And if we had gone on a date, which I did ask him to get tea with me back and forth in one of our messages after meeting at this game party, and he didn't respond to that part. So my friends were like, he's not good enough for you. Build up some wall. They were just trying to
Mm.
protect me by vilifying him. And I was like, I'm not going to do that. He's a really good person. It's okay. And as the Enneagram 7 that I am, I wasn't going to sit home and dwell on the pain during those two time
Mhm.
frames I gave him. So
No, there's no room for pain.
no.
It is
So one of
seven.
them, one of them I delivered cookies to people at work with a roommate, and then the next day I took a kid friend on a date with me. I had taken his big sister on a little breakfast date a couple weeks before, so it was like it's his turn. Um, During that date, we did a couple of different things. One of the things that happened was he saw a pirate flag and he said that he wanted to go. It was someone's house. I'm like, we don't know them. We can't go there. But one of my stops on our route of Columbus that day was to take Adam back the pans he had left at my breakfast potluck. And so I got his number the night before. I said, "Hey, are you home? Are you awake?" Yes and yes. Okay. P.S. The kid that I'm with thinks that you're a pirate. Don't let him down. Be there in 10 minutes. And he said, "Well, that's a tall order, but luckily I'm a very tall man." He's 6'4", 6'5". He's very tall. So we knock on the door and he impresses me by like, I mean, he did it for the child, but I was like, oh my gosh, this guy dressed up like a pirate to make a kid's day.
Oh,
So at that moment, I was like, I don't know what his religious background is, but I was like, he is the most Jesus-like person that I've ever encountered
oh,
in that sort of situation. So
love it.
I think if we had had tea as the date that I proposed, we probably would not be married today. We probably would have had like a good conversation, but I wouldn't have
Wow.
seen that side of him that made me like love him kind of in an
Yeah.
instant. And it was a clunky beginning after that. Like I was a quick mover and texter and inviter, and I did that to everybody, but like I wanted a response. And from him, it was very slow
Well,
and
as an Enneagram
thoughtful.
9, yeah.
Yeah, it was
It's
thoughtful. It
like,
was deep.
let's,
His writing was beautiful, but I felt uncomfortable with the unknown and almost ended it because I was like, it's too hard to feel out of control based on whether or not he writes back to me. I remember sharing our messages with my family. It was like a month later, and I was like, I'm gonna end things with this guy today. Like, I can't take it. And they read it and they're like, Rachel, he is reading you. Like you it seems like you want like fast food, but he's like a gourmet meal. Like why would you not want this person? So they helped me to keep
wow.
going. Um, I was also Adam's first girlfriend. He wasn't great at dating. I mean, he was a great human, but it
Yeah.
wasn't like he knew how to do that well. But I think that my previous relationship had been someone that was like a very slick dater and like he cheated on me. So I'm like, I actually really love a person that's not great at dating because I think that you only have to date once. Like it's something you get through and then you have that like comfortability in life together. And so
Yeah.
that's why I'm starting a podcast called Clunky Beginnings based on
Oh,
there's just so
yes.
many people that I know that have these beginnings where someone is sick and canceled the date and the other person's like, I'm not going to pursue that person or someone that, yeah, there's just a lot of stories of clunkiness in the beginning and also quick beginnings and all. Yeah. So a lot of stories are coming through that. I
Can't
forget.
wait to hear it. But that was a
We'll just
lovely
delete that part.
story. Yeah, yeah. And I mean, I absolutely love the way that you two met, and that is one of the best stories of the initiation of a relationship I think I've ever heard in my life.
Oh, I think I remember the other part. The day that we like decided to officially date, I was like, you can break up with me. Here's how I want you to do it. No ghosting, no cheating. Just break up with me like a good human. And
Wow.
I think it was like cool that at the age of 23, I knew myself and like knew what I expected from a partner enough to say it. And for a long time, people told me, you have really good boundaries. And I don't know, it feels confusing because I do feel like sometimes I love really like unhinged and don't have good boundaries. But
Sure.
I think in times like that where it's like we get to teach other people how to love us and treat us, and we can give some empathy and some space and allow people to make mistakes and tell them how it felt and see if there is a reflectiveness where someone is like taking ownership and accountability, like, thank you for pointing that out. I will be better. I will try to be better. And then it's like they either are, what's the word? They're either defensive or they say they want to do better. And then if they say they want to do better, it's like sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. And if they don't, then goodbye. Like you
Yeah.
you deserve better. And I do think like everyone get should have multiple chances to learn and grow, but maybe they do that before the next relationship. You're doing them a service by being open and communicating how you want to be loved. We're always the
Yes.
teachers and the
Yes.
students of how people should treat us and love us, and we have to not let things slide. Like we need to identify like, hey, I would not want my friend to be treated like this in a relationship, and I do not want myself to be treated like this. I will be happier on my own than being treated like this. But I do think there is that liminal space of helping someone see, and maybe they can do better if they know better. Maybe not, but they might. So,
I love that this is part of the wisdom that you get to share with folks. I mean, I just think that the dating world can use so much help. I'm thankful that for 17 years now, I haven't been in the dating world.
mhm.
But I know that it seems even harder now than 17 years ago. And so, yeah, I'm just grateful that you are an option. Can
Mhm.
you share with folks right now, before your website is like super up and running, what would be the best way? Say someone hears this and they're like, I think I'd just like to talk to her about what this could look like for us. What is the best way for them to get in touch with you right now?
If people have Instagram, go to my link tree and sign up for my email newsletter. If you're more of like a lurker, I just want to be along for the ride and kind of follow along and see big, broad strokes of what's happening. If you want to schedule an hour with me, I would love to talk to you about your dating life. I'll make sure there's also a link there. And I guess you could put it in your show notes too, Angie. So
Sure.
you can put my link tree in your show notes, and that should show everything that's happening. So right now, yeah, my like group experiences are crowdfunded. So I need at least 6 people to sign up to make them happen, because I value myself and my time, and
As you
I think
should.
this is good stuff for people, but also I can't be leaving my house, leaving my family behind to go and do all of these things without the support and my needs being taken care of too. So I
Yes,
occasionally
valuable.
plan on doing some larger events. There will be one in February. And then sometimes I'll just do like a pop-up walk at a park with some icebreakers and just honestly, like the people that come give me my name, which is in good company. Like they're people who want to be there. They want to be open-hearted. They want to be kind to each other. And they're the type of folks who are happy to leave with a friend, happy if something more, if you hit it off with someone, great. Take it slow, date intentionally because you're going to see them again if you keep coming to things, and I want it to feel good. So maybe even
Yeah.
just keep coming back to some group events, not having to put that pressure to decide, is this my person or not, but be more organic. Like before the online dating happened, like we were getting to be around people in class, at work, at the pool, at bowling alleys. Like I used to
Yes.
interview these 100-year-old Jewish people for an internship in college, and they all had this like community center that was their social life. They went to summer camp, they went bowling, and they all like found their partners through that stuff. So trying to recreate that vibe of we don't have to swipe on humans, we can there's nothing wrong with that. Online dating is
Yeah.
great. Lots of great people are on there, even great people with bad profiles. And there's some bad people with good profiles. But if there is an opportunity to do this a different way, like let's talk about maybe doing that. It could be good.
Absolutely. Wonderful. Well, we're going to wrap up here. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much for, first of all, just being you and loving people so well. I love that you are, this isn't a career choice for you based on like financial stability or anything like that. This is actually coming from the desires of your heart and the way that you were created to like love people and bring them together. And so, yeah. Listeners, if you or any of your friends are interested, please reach out to Rachel Barehl. I will put her links in the show notes. And Rachel, thank you for sharing authentically, as always, and giving us an overview of what you're doing.
Thank you for having me. I had a great time chatting with you and can't wait to hug you soon.
Yes, soon. Bye bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening. All aspects of this podcast were produced by me, Angie Ring, with overwhelming support and ongoing teaching by my son, Jairus. The song you hear is titled Death Defying Joy by the artist Andy Squires. You can find his music at Spotify, Apple Music, and YouTube. Check him out. See you next time.